The Community Voices Project, in conjunction with the University of Washington Bothell and the City of Bothell, presents the story of Bothell's fire on July 22, 2016. The Community Voices Collection is an archive of oral histories conducted by the University of Washington Bothell students, staff, faculty, and community members. These histories expand the breadth and depth of the recorded history of the University of Washington Bothell and the surrounding community. Nurses studying community health documented the experiences of law enforcement, firefighters, local business owners, construction workers, public works staff, IT professionals, and other citizens for the Community Voices Project in relation to the fire that devastated Bothell's historic Main Street. We hope you enjoy meeting some of the people who volunteered to participate in this project. Please visit the Community Voices website to hear the complete oral histories. The fire started at a construction site where the historic mercantile building was being remodeled into a 6-story multi-family apartment building. Bothell's fire chief, Bob Van Horn, retired in May 2017, shortly after the fire, the handling of which was one of his proudest accomplishments. The Main Street fire was the fire of a career for many people in the fire service, he said. It could have been worse, but each emergency responder came on the scene and did what they needed to do. Woodinville Fire Station Number 31 was one of the fire stations called to assist. Ladder 31 responded with Peter Briner, Daniel Lafotu, and Ron Suggs. The Ladder 31 firefighters agreed this fire was the largest they had seen. They battled the blaze for more than 12 hours to extinguish it. The heat was described as unbelievable. Surrounding cars were melting and the electrical poles were smoking. They all recalled the night as an unreal experience and send well wishes to those who lost property in this event. The Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, in addition to local police and fire officials, spent over a week investigating, but the fire was so severe that no conclusive evidence pointing to a cause for the blaze could be determined. Directed by Chief Carol Cummings, the Bothell Police Department works to protect life and property through their professional service and a proactive partnership with the community. Captain Johnson heads the Special Operations Unit and coordinates social media for the Bothell Police Department. You can follow them on Twitter at Bothell Police.
My name is Sergeant Ethan Wynn. My squad and I were working on the night of the fire. This is the corner here of Northeast 183rd Street and 102nd Avenue Northeast. Even from here, which is approximately 2 blocks away, this is where I closed the road off, and even from here, you could feel the heat of the fire on your face as it was fully engulfed when we arrived on scene.
Officer Mustafa Kumchur initially set up a blockade near the Bothell Park and Ride. However, the heat was so intense he was forced to remove his blockade back to a safer distance.
Hi, my name is Officer Kumchur with the Bothell Police Department. Night of the fire, I was standing by the Sammamish River Park and blocking the road to make sure nobody enters and exits from the fire scene. It was very impressive that the flames went up to 30-40 meters up, and then also it was the power of the nature of it was impressive because several cars in a case that park and ride, they had a melted rears and all the plastic everything was melted, and a lot of vehicles get damaged by the fire.
So when I arrived on scene, I pulled up to this intersection here at 104th and Main Street. Had a straight view to the mercantile building, which was fully engulfed. The flames were probably 30-40 feet in the air. At that point, I got out of my car, and the heat was so great, I couldn't really stay there that much longer. A short time later, Bothell Fire arrived on scene, and I had to back up to let the engines get in here so they could do their job. And then my job at that point was to go north to the intersection of 185th and 104th to block off any traffic coming into this area. It was at that point where I saw the neighboring houses, the yards were starting to catch fire from the embers were getting blown this way 2 blocks to the north, and it was catching the dry grass on fire.
Bothell's Public Works Department is responsible for the planning, design, construction, and maintenance of the city's infrastructure. It provides a variety of essential services to safeguard the quality of life, health, property, and public welfare of the citizens. The responsibility for cleanup largely fell to Public Works, as one of their main tasks is to sweep the road, make sure our storm drains are clear, and there's no street flooding. The Public Works team cleaned out storm drains and catch basins and pressure washed debris from drains on Main Street. They also cut down a tree that had been burnt. Nick Stroop, the superintendent of Bothell's Public Works Department, lives up the hill from Main Street. The sound of sustained sirens woke him up. "Just looking out the window, I could see there was something going on," he said. "We're not firemen. They are more of the immediate response and heroes in action. We like to think of ourselves as the heroes behind the scenes," said Stroop. The Public Works team had the crucial job of keeping the water flowing to the hydrants, cleaning up hazardous materials afterwards, maintaining road closures, and keeping detailed records for potential reimbursement from the federal government.
I'm Brian Parks. I was one of the first responders to the Bothell Main Street fire. I showed up at about 4 a.m., checked in with Bothell Command, which was police and fire chiefs. My role as a supervisor was to dispatch crews to try to open State Route 522 and maintain any and all fueling, water for we used Ted Stonebridge and his group for the water, because they maintain most of the water system, but I was asked to make sure that they had adequate water and fuel for their trucks. So I was involved from start to finish on opening roads and keeping the building secure and trying to reopen Main Street to the final reopening of Main Street, which was I think 3 weeks later.
Brian said, "The fire was up on the hill, and all the runoff went down onto the highway into the low spot under the bridge. We ended up calling a company called NRC Environmental out because the entire slough was turned white with fire foam." The Public Works Department also had the daunting task of permitting access to businesses as much as possible while simultaneously managing the demolition and construction site that Main Street had become. The city has made a lot of progress in rebuilding Main Street, but a year after the fire, it is still a work in progress. The 6-story apartment building was already framed over the Mercantile Building when it caught fire. After the charred remains were demolished, workmen had to build it all over again. The fire was so hot that it melted a crane at the apartment construction site, as well as the steel tension cables encased in concrete that supported the 5 upper floors. The building's owner, George Petrie, said that the slab had to be broken apart and repoured. Plans to revitalize Bothell's Main Street had already begun when the fire occurred. The mayor said, "If there can be a silver lining to this tragedy, it's that the city will be able to move forward with rebuilding Main Street. This is our link to the past. We didn't want Main Street to die off. We wanted to preserve this part of the city." Anna Maria Catanzaro was working at the bakery the morning of the fire. The bakery wasn't directly affected, so Anna Maria wanted to support the community and the people working to put out the blaze by giving them delicious cookies to lift their spirits. Lee Henderson, owner of Alexa's Café, is deeply involved with the business community in Bothell. She also offered food to emergency services workers. In addition, her business raised thousands of dollars to help other businesses get back on their feet. So much money was raised that Lee was eventually forced to stop accepting donations. A bartender from the Three Lions pub was just locking up when he saw an explosion. He was one of the first to report the fire to the emergency services, and he stayed at the pub from the time the fire started until noon the next day to help control water from the fire trucks by placing sandbags around the pub to protect it. The Bothell Mall was at the southwest corner of 102nd Avenue Northeast and Main Street. It held 15 businesses. The entire building was a total loss. Some of the businesses have been able to relocate to other areas. Others have closed permanently. A much beloved restaurant that served as a social hub in Bothell, the Cozy Corner was a loss deeply felt by the community. The owners have been unable to rebuild. Governor Jay Inslee visited the city and promised his support for Bothell's Main Street Improvements grant application. Governor Inslee wrote to the State Transportation Investment Board offering support for a $4.7 million award towards a $7 million plan to rebuild and modernize the historic heart of the city of Bothell.